number 20, we have this Graveyard Freeze deck. In a meta dominated by the Baby Dragon evolution, this deck will definitely be a good choice. The Evolved Executioner is a counter to the Baby Dragon evolution, and it'll be your main defensive card in this deck. Try to defend first with Bowler and Inferno Dragon, then use Graveyard Freeze with your surviving troops. Vines is the most dominant card in this meta, but it won't be able to do anything against Graveyard, so Graveyard decks like these will be some of the best choices for this meta. This deck achieves a great score on defense, although it might be a bit hard to upgrade. At number 19, we have this no-skill Recruit Vines deck. This is an extremely annoying deck as it features the Vines and Skeleton Barrel evolution. Vines is an incredibly broken spell, and you can use it to make your Wall Breakers and Skeleton Barrel connect to the tower. The Royal Recruits and Mighty Miner shall be your best cards on defense, while the Firecracker will make sure to give your opponents a hard time. Goblin Gang and Guards combined with the Vines spell can take care of win conditions like Hog Rider. This deck is very well rounded in terms of everything and is also easy to play. At number 18, we have the Splash Yard. This classic graveyard deck is back and is going to be even stronger with the new Baby Dragon evolution. You have the Cannon evolution, which is the strongest defensive card in the game in my opinion. Combine it with Guards and you can basically stop every ground push. The Baby Dragon and Ice Wizard are going to slow down the opponent's offense, while the Cannon can take them out. Defend first, then counter push with Ice Golem and surviving troops. The counter push with the Graveyard will be massive and near impossible for the opponent to stop. This deck is well rounded on defense and is also free to play friendly. At number 17, we have Golem Beatdown. The Golem got buffed last month and it's definitely returned to the meta. The new Baby Dragon evolution seems to benefit Golem decks, and the Vines spell is a game changer. Golem is countered by tanks like P.E.K.K.A. and Evo Mega Knight. Having Vines in your deck means that you can bind these troops for a few seconds. This will be enough for your heavy damage dealing troops like Lumberjack and Night Witch to take them out. Guards can be used on defense if your opponent tries to punish you for playing your Golem. Don't give spell value to your opponent by playing all your troops in the same place. This deck is rated very highly on offense and is one of the easiest decks to play. At number 16, we have Logbait. This is also an OG Logbait deck, but now with the Dark Prince buff, it's going to dominate the meta. The Furnace got nerfed, which is good news for Logbait players. Vines will still be a problem for the Goblin Barrel, but that's why you also have the Rocket to get tower damage. Additionally, Princess on Bridge can get you damage and annoy the heck out of your opponents. If just like me, you also hate this play, then click the like and subscribe button. For defense, use the trip of Dark Prince, Rascals and Cannon Cart. Always try to apply dual lane pressure with this deck. If you've got damage on both lanes, it becomes much harder for your opponent to predict your Goblin Barrel evolution. Use your Snowball Evo to make some cool plays on both offense and defense. This skill is rated very highly on offense, although it's slightly tough to master. At number 15, we have Giant Skeleton Graveyard. This is an off-meta deck, made to counter all the popular decks in the meta. It was one of the strongest decks on top ladder last month too. The Giant Skeleton is a very reliable card on defense, as his bomb can wipe out any troop. The Berserker and Minions are two very underrated cards on defense, because they provide valuable positive elixir trades. The Goblin Hut is a great defensive building. It pairs well with the Furnace and creates an irritating defense, which is tough to break through. The Goblin Curse did get a nerf recently, but it should still be fine with graveyard decks. Still, you can use Vines or Poison in its place if you want. This deck receives a high score on defense, and it's also one of the easiest decks to upgrade. At number 14, we have the Royal Recruits Piggies deck. This is perhaps the most no-skill deck in the game. The Vines will make this deck even more annoying. Split your recruits, split your Royal Hogs behind them, and then Flying Machine in the middle. That's been the only play of this deck since forever, and it's still frustrating to deal with. Use your Goblin Cage to counter any tanks coming your way. The Vines and Zappies combo is brutal. It'll make your opponents feel like they can't even get their troops to reach your tower. It's perhaps the most well-rounded deck in Clash Royale and receives a high score in all aspects. At number 13, we have Mortar Miner Bait. This is a very solid defensive deck, and a super underrated one in my opinion. Your main goal with this deck should be to get to your evolved mortar, and then protect it at all costs. Keep pressuring your opponent with miners and bats. The Cannon Cart, Ice Wizard, and Guards will be your best cards for defense. Use your Skeleton King's ability wisely, and don't spam it without any thought. The Vines can be used in a lot of creative ways with this deck, and it further enhances the defense. Overall, this deck is superb on defense, but perhaps not the easiest to play. At number 12, we have P.E.K.K.A. Bridge Spam. One of the decks that will benefit a lot from Vines is Bridge Spam. You have 3 choices of evolutions in this deck: P.E.K.K.A., Battle Ram, and Baby Dragon. To be fair, you can use any 2 of these. The newly buffed Dark Prince makes this deck stronger. Golden Knight will be a nice card to apply pressure and bait out counters from your Battle Ram. This isn't an easy deck to play by any means, but it gets a really good score on offense. At number 11, we have Miner Poison. This variation of Miner Poison is gaining popularity rapidly. People are realizing how useful the Berserker is, and she's replacing every mini tank in miner decks. Combining her with Ice Spirit Evo or Guards can stop high DPS cards like Prince or Mini P.E.K.K.A. too. Your job is to apply relentless pressure with miners and poison. The little Prince can be used to stop air troops as well as make your cycle fast. In double and triple elixir, you can drop your little Prince in the back. This will let you spam your miners faster because of the 3-card cycle. The Tesla evolution is good on defense, although if you really want, you can use the Cannon evolution too. Overall, this deck is fairly rated in every way, although you'll need some skill to play it perfectly. At number 10, we have this new upgraded version of Miner Balloon Cycle. This is a very strong deck because the Vines synergizes really well with the balloon. It can neutralize the counters of the balloon, thus allowing you to get a hit easily while the miner tanks. While Vines counter balloon too, you can use your own Vines to trap your opponent's troops trying to kill your balloon. This is a strategic play you will need to pull off against every Vines deck. For defense, the Bomb Tower and Guards are reliable ground cards, but the MVP of this deck is the Monk, with ranged cards like Baby Dragon Evo and Executioner Evo being quite strong. The Monk can destroy them single-handedly using his ability. The Miner Loon Cycle deck gets a high score on both offense and defense, but it's a very tough deck to play. At number 9, we have Mega Knight Prince Spam. This is a super aggressive deck, and you need to play it as such. Apply pressure using cards like Wall Breakers and Prince, and combo them with Vines to get maximum value. The Mega Knight evolution is a strong card that can be a threat on both offense and defense. Using him with the Electro Wizard makes a great defensive combo. The Miner plus Minions push can be used to bait out spells or other counters to your Wall Breakers. Once those counters are out, go all in with an aggressive push. This deck is obviously rated highly on offense, but the best thing about it is that it's free to play. At number 8, we have Goblin Giant Double Prince. This meta is going to be dominated by Goblin Giant decks, and this is the first of them. The Dark Prince is stronger than ever, and if you combine him with the Prince and Rage behind the Goblin Giant, they can take out even cards like P.E.K.K.A. and Mega Knight quickly. This is a very aggressive deck, and oftentimes your opponent will crumble under the pressure. The Baby Dragon evolution will be your main defensive card. You can use the Vines both on offense and defense. On offense, it'll let your support troops kill the opponent's counters quickly, while on defense, it'll buy you time so that you can deal with your opponent's push. This deck has the max score on offense and is really easy to upgrade. At number 7, we have Lava Miner Double Dragons. Lava Hound decks usually struggle on defense, but the new Baby Dragon evolution solves that too. Being a flying troop, it synergizes with the Lava Hound really well, but it also helps a ton on defense by slowing down troops. So you can combine him with the Tombstone and Guards, and you have a defense that's basically impossible to break through. Even if your opponent is running a counter, try to use your tower hit points as a resource and build a big push. Use the miner on the tower right when the Lava Hound is about to pop. The Inferno Dragon is a must-have in this deck, as it's your main tank killer. Overall, this deck is rated highly on offense and defense, and it's also very easy to play for beginners. At number 6, we have Goblin Drill Cycle. this deck is almost always strong in the meta. The Dark Prince, Lil Prince, and Vines are the new additions to this deck, and they all make the deck stronger. Dark Prince and Cannon Evolution are solid on defense. The Little Prince allows you to cycle drills faster because of the 3-card cycle, and obviously, Vines is just a broken card. Use your Evolved Snowball right when you know your opponent is about to drop a counter on your drill. This play is always guaranteed damage and will often win you the game right there. Defending can be a bit tricky with this deck as you need a lot of skill to pull off great defenses. But apart from that, this deck is well rated in almost every aspect. At number 5, we have Royal Giant Cycle. This deck was popular in the last meta too, but Vines is actually gonna break this deck this time. The Vines can take care of Infernos or any heavy damage dealing troops like P.E.K.K.A., which will ensure that your Royal Giant always gets a hit on the tower. Placing the Monk in front of the Royal Giant makes things even trickier for your opponent, as his ability can wipe out ranged units off the board. The opponent won't be left with much defense, and you can win the game easily. The Wizard and Guards are solid defensive cards in this meta, while the Fisherman can be used to make a lot of strategic plays. Overall, this deck is quite high skill, but really well-rounded in all aspects. At number 4, we have Logbait with Vines. The Furnace nerf brought Logbait back into the meta, but the Vines made it even more annoying. This deck relies heavily on split lane pressure, and therefore it runs the wall breakers. You can split your wall breakers, which will always guarantee a positive elixir trade. Make your opponents waste their small spells on cards like Goblin Gang, Dot Goblin, or Princess. Once the small spells are out, go all in with the Goblin Barrel. The Valkyrie is a very reliable card on defense, and combining her with a Dart Goblin and Ice Spirit can take care of most pushes. Play this deck aggressively and aim to get split lane damage. This deck is rated extremely well on offense, and is perhaps the most free-to-play deck in this month's list. At number 3, we have Goblin Giant Furnace with Vines. This is an absolutely broken deck, and if you don't play perfectly against it, you're cooked. It requires no skill to play. Just spam your cards behind the Goblin Giant, rage them all, and deploy Vines on your opponent's counters. If you want to have a bit of defense, then you have the Mega Minion and Furnace. This is the kind of deck that can 3-crown you in a single push. The Goblin Machine nukes out any ranged units on offense, the Prince and Furnace destroys any high DPS troops, and the Goblin Giant keeps on spawning endless goblins. This deck gets a very high score on offense, and basically anyone can pick it up and win with it right away. At number 2, we have Classic Splash Yard. This deck was bound to be the best deck in this meta because of the Baby Dragon evolution. The defense of this deck is impossible to break through. Evolved Knight, Ice Wizard, Goblin Hut, and the Evolved Baby Dragon. You literally have all the best defensive cards in Clash Royale in a single deck. How is the opponent even supposed to break through? As long as you don't give any spell value to the opponent on defense, you should be fine. Then, once you've defended your enemy's push, go all in with a counter push, and there's nothing your opponent can do to stop it. This deck gets full marks on defense and is well rated in other aspects too. And finally, at number 1, as expected, we have P.E.K.K.A. Goblin Giant Spam. This deck is just so broken that it feels unfair playing against it. You're basically destroyed the moment you see both Goblin Giant Evolution and P.E.K.K.A. Evolution together. Because of these two cards, this deck receives a perfect score on offense and is the easiest deck to play in Clash Royale. Both these cards are amongst the top 10 most hated cards of 2025, but what are the other 8 cards? To find out, click on this video.